Galen was born 500 years after the Hippocratic doctors in what's now Turkey. He spoke Greek, but for 40 years he practiced in Rome, in Italy, where Greek doctors were considered to be the best. He treated the emperor successfully and became Rome's leading doctor. We still have his autobiography, which he wrote because, he said, so many inferior doctors were passing off his work as their own.
I was walking along. I met this man surrounded by a crowd of fools. He was saying, I've met Galen, the great Galen. He's taught me everything he knows. He was peddling cures for toothache. Toothache, he said, is caused by worms in the teeth. And he had this ball of pitch, which he lit so it smoked. And he stuffed it in this poor man's face, forcing him to screw up his eyes. And when they were tight shut, he slipped these worms into his mouth and pretended to draw them out. Ta-da! They were so impressed, they wanted to give him all their money. I said to them, I, ladies and gentlemen, am Galen, and he is a quack. And then I had him taken and flogged.
Galen was a show-off, but he was also a brilliant doctor. This 16th century illustration shows him soon after his arrival in Rome, performing a public dissection on a live pig. His aim was to show the doctors of Rome how far his studies had advanced.
Do you know they still believe the heart controls what we do? It's the brain controls what we do, but only if you make the cut can you prove it. So I had this pig strapped to the table. I sliced into its neck and found its nerves. It was squealing the whole time. I said, watch. When I cut this nerve, it'll squeal. I make the cut. Again, when I cut this nerve, again, it'll squeal. But when I cut this nerve, the pig will no longer be able to squeal. And I cut, and the pig's completely silent, proving the brain, not the heart, controls speech. Everything they believed, in a moment.
Galen's aim was to explain everything about the body, the purpose of each part of the body, what the heart, the brain and the liver do, and how they all work together. He turned medical thinking since Hippocrates into one system, a system which became very powerful and then influenced Western medical thought for the next 1400 years. But Galen had a problem that hindered his development as a doctor. He needed to study the body inside as well as out. In ancient Rome, cutting up dead bodies was simply not done. It wasn't forbidden, but few Greeks or Romans would have dreamed of interfering with a corpse. It was an example of religious beliefs holding back medical progress.
You have to study human bones. I don't mean study in books, even my books, which granted are by far the best. No, I'm talking about real bones, skeletons, seeing them with your own eyes, touching them, understanding how they move, how they fit together. It's difficult, but it's not impossible.
Galen had studied medicine in Egypt, where, after death, priests removed the body's internal organs as part of the funeral preparations, and where his teachers had been able to show him skeletons. He told his students to go there too. But back home, seeing the inside of a human body was more difficult. How could he do this?
I was doctor to the gladiator school for a while. That was good. All those fit and well-muscled men slicing into each other. I got to see inside some very interesting wounds.
Galen also used to search for big family tombs with the marble doors broken so that he could get inside.
I'd spent hours lost in excitement, fixing myself on what I was seeing, determined to remember every bone, every joint. How I'd have wished to take one of those skeletons to have with me when I wrote, to make sure my account was perfect and free from mistakes.
Though Galen claimed to have seen human corpses, the evidence suggests he never did an actual full dissection on a human being. Instead, he had to rely heavily on dissections of apes and other animals. And it meant, despite his brilliance, he did make mistakes. He wrote that the left kidney is lower than the right, correct for an ape, but not for a human. He described the womb, but in fact he was describing the womb of a dog. And because religious beliefs made dissections difficult, it was hard for anyone to challenge his work or to prove he was wrong.